Hi.
Emily? Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
All right.
My husband should be joining shortly,
Okay.
and my daughter is with him.
Okay. So we're just gonna start with like a quick review.
Okay.
And I put it on the website, I put it on my consultation form, but people seem to breeze past it.
Okay.
But we've begun recording our consultations and our training sessions and stuff. It helps us a lot, especially with the COVID stuff. It shows people that we actually know what we're doing.
Okay.
So I was reading, we have Penny, correct?
Yes, and it's her birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Penny. And I did receive the videos.
Okay. Oh, good. I
did watch
wasn't sure if they would, with the size and everything, if they'd go through.
Yeah, I got 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what I sent you.
Yeah. And 2 of them, I didn't see. Oh, here we go. I think this may be your husband.
Oh, probably.
Because I saw another participant here. It says they're joining. Let's take a look.
Oh, there he is.
All right.
Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. I'm Ed.
So we just started, and I was kind of reviewing Penny's consultation form. I got the videos. I received 3 videos. I watched them. It seemed in 2 of them, like you're aware if you push Penny, you're going to see her escalate, essentially. And then in the 3rd one, I saw her barking when someone rang the doorbell, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So the doorbell one, don't even worry about that one. Okay. I deal with that stuff all the time.
Okay.
Okay. What I'd like to know more about is, I know in the video you were describing, she was giving certain looks, she was posturing a certain way, and you knew if you tried to, I guess, leash her, she would assume become aggressive, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is this anytime you try to leash her up that she does this? Like, what's prior? What's the context?
And I'll speak for now because I can't see my husband. So, you know, it's kind of hit or miss. I'm the one who gets up with her first thing in the morning, and she's sometimes slow. And when I come in after work, that's like her back area where she stays if nobody's at home. She's just very slow to say, yeah, I want to go out, unless she really, really, really has to go out. And so you have to go like on her time schedule. And if you approach her and try to like take her collar or hook her up, she will bite you.
Okay.
But if you say, oh, I have a treat, and you like do this magic that we have to do just to get her to trust us, I guess, then it works. I do want to revisit the doorbell thing. The one video we didn't get, which is related to the doorbell, is if there's a person there, if we actually open the door, she will aggressively try to bite them. So it's more than just the doorbell. But anyway, so she has these little tells, like her ears go down, she looks at you, she's kind of lays down in her corner and she's like, leave me alone. But there are times where like, we got to go out because we've been inside for 2 hours and we're getting ready to leave and you have to go out. So there's this whole kind of dance we have to do. Otherwise, she's going to get very aggressive.
Okay. And I saw that you worked with 2 other trainers, is that correct?
Well, we did puppy school, like normal training, dog school, and she's very smart. She's very good. The one video I didn't send you, and I didn't know if it was relevant, it's just her walking with people on the trail and dogs, and she's totally fine.
Sure.
So she does all the puppy things. She knows what she can do. She's stubborn and won't listen to you sometimes. Sure. And then the other trainer we started working with on this problem, and she was more like, we had just started with her and we were working just on walking controlled, which wasn't necessarily an issue, but it was the beginning of getting her to listen to us. And then the trainer had a family emergency and had to stop. And then, you know, it was winter and, you know, nothing had really happened and everything was fine. And until she gets all aggressive again, like bites me, then I say, we have to do something about this, which is kind of what happened.
How old is she again?
She's 3.
And how long has she done this behavior for?
I mean, for a couple of years now, I think.
So
Well, yeah, can I jump in here for a sec?
Yeah.
This may or may not be relevant. I sort of hesitate to mention it because I don't want too much importance given to it if it's not relevant. But we used to have 2 dogs, another Aussie who was older, and you know, she passed away about a year ago, and I noticed with Penny that her behavior started to change around the time the older dog died.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
for sure gotten worse, for sure, since Bonnie died, for sure.
yeah. So, and then the second trainer that Emily was just talking about, who came to our house and took her on a walk, a lot of that was just sort of like command training, sit, stay, heel, that kind of stuff. It wasn't really about diagnosing the situation or the problem so much as it was just a continuation of basic obedience training.
Gotcha. And then,
and then if I could throw one more thing on So, you know, we took her to the vet just to rule out anything that was physical that was going on. And the vet said, well, you should go talk to this person or that person and read this book or read that book. And we did all that, and it just didn't seem to make much of a difference. And then the final thing that happened was we tried to take her in to where we board her to get groomed. And, you know, because of COVID, they had to come out and grab her. Well, the groomer was this very large person who came out, and you could just see in Penny's eyes, she was just terrified. And she got down in a crouch with her ears back, and she was barking like, this woman is going to attack me. And basically, she wasn't able to groom her.
Ah, okay. But they had groomed her before.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick before I forget, when your other dog passed, how old was Penny at the time? 2 or 1?
She was just about 2.
Just about 2. Okay.
Yeah, it's her 3rd birthday today. So yeah.
I heard,
She was
yes.
just, yeah.
Okay. And sorry, Edward, because I know you jumped in a little bit after. Just so that you know as well, we record these sessions and we put them up because it helps people know that we know what we're talking about and that what we do actually works.
Okay. I'm cool with that.
Okay. So anything else here about Penny that I should know about?
She's insanely smart. She's, I don't know, she watches TV. Like, this is my first dog that, like, yeah, every dog on TV for sure. She likes certain cartoons. She could watch, what's the TV show that she watches, Ed? The vet show.
She likes Dr. Pol.
Or Dr. Jeff. Yeah. I could put Dr. Jeff on and all day, and she'd just lay there and watch it. That's weird to me.
Sure.
So I know she's really smart. She's very stubborn. She will do tricks, but she's also very much, I'm guessing, wants to be the alpha of the family. That's just my guess. But she's also very scared and nervous, hates thunder and lightning, hates fireworks, hates fireworks.
When you say scared and nervous, you're talking about in the context of like fireworks and stuff like that, or just like,
yeah,
it's like things that she's not comfortable with?
Anything she's
yeah,
not.
or you know, the Amazon truck pulls up, the you know, mailman pulls up to we've got a mailbox. We don't have like a normal mailbox like attached to our house. Mail truck shows up, Amazon truck, UPS, it doesn't make a difference. And she just kind of goes nuts like, oh my God, someone's invading our house.
Right.
But it's more scared than I don't know. And then when a person comes up, yeah, she goes really ballistic for people, which has gotten far worse in the past year.
In terms of the bites, has she punctured or broken skin, or is it normal? Is it like just like grazing and like?
Oh, I had to go to the emergency room.
Oh wow, need stitches?
No, it was puncture.
Okay.
It was just like a bite. I mean, she's strong. She's a big, strong girl.
Sure.
And in that case, I was grooming her because she couldn't be groomed. And I know I have to be like, it's a process. She doesn't like her back end being groomed. And I got the little nail file thing because her nails needed to be clipped. And we were doing so great. And I think I just pushed her. We had done her nails. I had brushed her, and towards the very end, I think she had just had enough. And I just needed to finish one part. And I kind of pulled her back towards me. And she turned around and just snapped. Like, I've had enough.
Sure. Was that the first and only that you had a good bite like that, or has there been like a couple?
There's been a couple, but
Okay.
kind of the same instance. When we have gone in to get her and like pull her by the collar, you can't do that. So you can't go near her collar unless she lets you get near her collar. So like if I have treats in my hand and I give her a reason, I mean, it's like, do you want to go out? And she's all, no, 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 no. But if I get some treats and I talk happy, and sometimes I sit down with her on the floor and I give her a treat and she feels comfortable with me. And then I say, do you want to go out? She gets up, I hook the leash onto her collar and we go out. It's fine. But if I just went down to grab her collar and pulled her, she would bite.
I think your daughter's just doing right now.
Oh, there she is. I know, she just texted me.
Yeah, there we go. Alrighty. Let me think here. How many instances have we had, like roughly, would you say, of like of more severe or more so actual bites than attempts?
Well, she bit me on the hand once. I don't know when this was, maybe January or something like that. Wasn't a huge deal, but it was enough that
She's
I
gotten
was
Bella twice.
So about 4 since everything started to go downhill, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, she bit me once when she was a puppy, but I was playing with the toy and she was trying to get the toy and bit my leg. So that wasn't an aggressive bite. I'm just really talking about like that. I'm pissed at you. I'm going to bite you, to the point where she can't be near other people. Like if she can. So about 4 times, I guess.
Let me think. Okay, have you ever had an instance with a guest coming in? Because I know you said it's not just the barking at the door, but if you open, she would definitely bite at that person.
Yeah.
Have you had anybody actually enter your home? And if you did, what was the behavior you saw from Penny?
Crazy, insane barking.
Was she charging them or was she staying back?
The only people nobody's allowed in our house. My daughter's had a couple friends over and she kind of recognizes them and she barks at them, but we keep her isolated. So I can't really answer that.
Sure.
Ed's brother Joe came out recently, and Ed, you can talk about that.
Yeah, we've had a couple instances where someone would come around back. We're out on a patio or whatever, and she'd be out there with us. And, because of this, she's not on an invisible fence or anything like that. When she's outside, she's harnessed or tied up in some fashion. So my brother came around and she just saw him and started barking like, oh my God, here comes the attacker. And, she did sort of come up to him and he attempted to pet her. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. And I think she tried to go for him. She tried to go for his hand. And, he pulled back in time. There have been other incidents where, we've had people come over to our house unannounced and we're in back. And, you know, she just sees them and she goes crazy, like, oh my God, you know, here come the attackers.
If she was off leash, she would go attack them, I think, for sure.
Or yeah, or at the very least go right up to them and bark, you know.
Have you ever seen her when someone moved toward her back away?
I don't know. Ed, you're with her more than I am now, so.
So she backs away from someone? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so like let's say, you know, she triggers, she's barking, right? The person's unaware and they move in towards Penny. Have you ever seen that happen? But then she moves back, or does she like, is she stationary? Is she moving forward?
I don't think she backs up. I really haven't noticed that one way or the other. I mean, I suppose someone could try to scare her and push her back, like, you know, "Rah," like that, and she might back up a little bit. Then my sense is she'd come right back into the frame and you know, resume where she was.
Okay.
I mean, I will say with me, it's like she got a little snippy, we call it being snippy, like a little snarl, because I was trying to she tore apart one of her stuffed toys and I was trying to get the fluff away and she gets a little snarly and I give it back to her. I just yell at her like that aggressive, strong no, because I remember in previous trainings with our 2 other dogs we've had, when they're puppies, you have to let them know you're the boss. And when they get growly, you grab them, you hold them down until they calm down. And that's kind of what, and she listens to it. Now I don't get any closer to it. I just let her know that that's unacceptable. And she usually backs down, but that's like, because she knows me, she'll listen to me, but I can't expect anybody that comes into our house to be that aggressive with her, I guess.
Right. It's not their responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, I mean, I know how to behave with her, but she just doesn't seem happy. I mean, she's happy with us. I will say when people come to the door about your backing up thing, we have these 2 couches and you saw in the video, she jumps on the couch and kind of hides behind the back of the couch. She doesn't go to the door and start barking.
Mm-hmm.
She barks from the couch.
Okay. I believe at the end, she did go towards the door, but I think someone like went to like address the door.
Yeah, Ed was there. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm asking these questions is I'm trying to decipher where this aggression is coming from. Okay. So think of aggression isn't something, how do you say, like dogs aren't these amicable creatures that have no problems unless you get one that went off like the wrong assembly line or something like that. Okay. I want you to think of aggression as an emotional state. Okay. Mm-hmm. So dogs get scared, people get scared. Dogs get anxious, people get anxious. Dogs get nervous, people get nervous. Dogs get aggressive, people get aggressive, right? But there's something typically behind it. And so the barking at the door, the reason why I say that's not a problem is because I know that's territorial behavior. It's completely normal.
Yeah.
Okay? But I need to know what's fueling the biting. Okay. So in that moment, if somebody came in and she didn't bite them, it's territorial.
Yeah.
When you go into her personal space, that's where I'm trying to, you know, it's definitely a bully behavior where she's like, hey, you don't come to me, I'll come to you already.
Yeah, very much.
Right. And it's strange that it happened after your other dog passed, because typically these things happen around 6 months or a year. Okay. And yours really happened around a kind of very impactful experience, but it's not so, I don't think it's so much her being impacted by like, oh, I'm sad that my friend passed, more so that the hierarchy changed because now the dog.
That's it. Because they weren't ever friends really. Because our other dog was just old lady dog and just like they didn't hang out together. They didn't sleep together. They were not friends. I think it's like, oh, I'm the king now. Correct. Is what it is.
Yeah. So that's where that sounds like that's coming from. You have a bit of a trickier case than what we've, not how to say, not in the sense that we can't handle it, but it's circumstances that we're in now.
Yeah.
I've dealt with all forms of aggression throughout my 10 years. I mean, I come into homes like you can't even walk in because a dog will grab your arm and pull you in and shake you all over the place, right? So the reason why I asked, had you ever had someone come in that she would bark at if she stays back, stays stationary, or moves forward, is because that tells me what her personality type is. Okay? So it's okay that we don't really know. When you said if there's someone behind the door and she'll bite them, it's because she's more at an advantage, right? Because when you open that door, you get a bite out, but then retreat and be within the walls of her home.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially when we're in the house, she, like, there's somebody knocking in the door. She's kind of like, I want them to hear me, but I'm going to hide over here and bark.
Okay.
If they actually came in, like, we've never let anybody in without having her on a leash or putting her, you know, in a place where she feels, I want to take that anxiety away from her.
Right.
And so normally, like, after somebody's been in the house for a while, she realizes, well, they're still in the house and my people are okay with it, so it must be okay.
Okay.
I still wouldn't feel comfortable ever letting her out and roaming around people.
When you've done that and you had her on a leash and she settles, if the person moves, have you ever seen her start barking? Or is she fine after she settles?
She's pretty fine after she settles. She'll bark just at, oh, what's going on kind of bark. Not, it's a different kind of bark. I don't know. I could be wrong, Ed. But to me, it's like once somebody's here for a while, like my daughter will have a friend or two over and she's fine. She knows they're there. Like she'll hear them in the basement watching a movie. They'll come upstairs and she might bark a couple times, but it's just like, hey, somebody's here walking around kind of bark. Not that aggression, that anxiety seems to go away.
Okay. Yeah. By what I'm hearing, I'm not picking up any real behavioral issue like anxiety, nervousness, or fear, really. Okay. Because I'm not getting any of the typical cues that follow those personality types. Okay. I think you have a dog that's a bully.
Oh.
And territorial behavior and all that stuff, that's, again, normal. Every dog triggers to a door knock or a doorbell. Super common.
Yeah.
Okay? But if you have a dog that's friendly or not as territorial, when you open the door, you know, they go from alert mode to, oh, I see a person and I love people, and then they go to this, right?
That's what I want.
Yeah. And your dog is more so staying stuck in territorial behavior. I mean, it's possible that she's fearful, nervous, or anxious, but it's either just a little bit or not at all. So far from what I'm hearing.
Okay.
But unfortunately, because you're being cautious, you're like, I have her on a leash, we do this so that we prevent this from happening, is that it's not allowing me to pick up the typical stuff that I would see within that kind of place. Yeah. Okay. So it's not bad or anything. It's a little bit trickier for me to decipher what the root of the cause is. Okay?
Well, and it's hard to get somebody to come over to our house and say, okay, we want you to come in and there's a chance our dog's going to attack you. Sure. I mean, that's the struggle is I don't.
So, the trickiest part about all this stuff is the leashing her up and collaring her up.
Okay.
Because one, to do training, you got to collar her up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But in terms of the aggressive behavior and the biting and stuff, you know, if she did that behavior to another dog, how would that dog correct her?
Bite her.
Bite her, right? They use physicality.
Yeah.
So part of the reason why she's bullying is no one's holding her back. Okay. So if a dog bites me, tries to bite me, I quote unquote bite them back, either using a training tool or correcting them using my hands and feet. Okay. Because that's the language. You know, if other people use their hands or feet, you guys familiar with Cesar Millan at all?
With who?
Cesar Millan.
Oh, the dog
trainer. Yeah, the dog whisperer. He had a TV show. Right?
Yeah.
If you watch the show, he uses his hands to correct dogs, and he does like his foot tap and all that stuff. So, you know, he's using physicality to correct the dog, saying, if you bite me, I'm going to come right back at you, right? Because that's their language.
Yeah.
Humans, we can talk things. You know, we can say like, hey, like I didn't like it when you said this to me. That was very disrespectful. We might resolve that issue, right? Or it might become physical. So dogs don't have communication in the sense of, hey, you know, I don't like it when you try to put your hand around my collar or whatever. It makes me feel uncomfortable. You know, so please don't do that. If you do it, I'm going to bite you.
Yeah.
Right. So, I had this issue actually with a dog that came here as a little Shih Tzu, and he went through quite a few foster homes until finally he went to one foster home that came to train with me, and you couldn't call him or anything because he'd bite you. And they left him here before they started training because we have the skills to handle a dog like that. And he tried to bite me, and I bit him right back. And he learned very quick that we don't play that game, and then we didn't have any issues. Okay, but of course he was a small 15-pound dog, which made him right. So what makes your case tricky is that portion. Okay, is the how are we going to work with this dog if we are tentative or hesitant about even leashing or calling the dog in fears of getting bit? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, we walk her every day. I can get her on a leash. It's just under her terms. Like I
Right.
have to.
But we have to get on our terms.
Yeah.
That's the part.
Yeah.
Okay. Once we get that addressed, then everything else is not an issue. Okay. Addressing her at the front door is not an issue. You know, working her to trust people, isn't so much an issue as it is time and specific exercises to socialize her. Okay. Because everything is within the home. Outside the home, not an issue unless she was tethered in that one instance with your brother, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
and I will say she is, and I don't know if this is relevant. We call them friends, no friends. When we take her for a walk, there are certain dogs that trigger her. We don't know why. I mean, one, we know why, because it's a crazy, crazy ass dog. But there's like a Siberian Husky that walks in the neighborhood. She's never had an interaction with this dog ever, but she goes crazy barking at that dog. If a golden doodle walks by, no problem whatsoever.
and this is when she's in the home.
Yeah, well, yeah, when we're like outside, and these are our neighborhood dogs, and she sees them walking the neighborhood. We walk the neighborhood, so we see them all the time. And like, I don't know if it's the pointy muzzle or the pointy ears that trigger her, and like the fluffy doodly dogs that don't because they appear happier. I don't know if it's just a visual thing.
Almost always, like it can be like I've had dogs like, for instance, like hate huskies. You know, maybe a husky attacked them when they were a puppy, and they kind of like made this, you know, kind of a decision of don't trust huskies, right? So that can happen. It's almost always energy. So like when you said that one dog's crazy.
Well, there's one crazy dog, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It could be, and energy doesn't always mean like, you know, the dog's lunging and barking. It can mean, you know, dogs are very good at sensing kind of passive versus assertive energy, right? So as humans, you wouldn't be scared of a person who's passive. You know, they come across as non-threatening. A more assertive person or more outspoken or bigger energy is different, right? So, and that leash reactivity or what have you actually is minor too in the scope of things that you have.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out how we're going to fix that collar issue, because you should be able to just collar your dog and it not be, you know, a hassle. You shouldn't have to work magic, like you said, to make it happen. It should just be, I can collar my dog up and we go for a walk. Okay. Getting there is going to be the tricky part. Okay.
So do you think if that problem gets solved, I guess we've been so hesitant to socialize her with anybody for fear she's going to do something. So it's like this vicious circle. Like she's not going to get better if we don't socialize her, but I can't socialize her because she's not better.
Right.
So is that collar thing, fixing that, like being able to go into her territory, hold her collar, put it on without her even blinking twice? Will that Like, how are those two connected?
It's the beginning point, because in
Okay.
order for us to socialize her and work on their territorial behavior, we have to have control
Okay.
or a means of control, right? And that training collar allows us to get to point B. Okay.
Okay.
There's ways to work around it, but then you're going to be stuck. Like you could always stop the barking and lunging at the door. That's actually easy to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But the following aspect of we're going to stop the barking and then have someone come in makes things a little bit more difficult unless you have the appropriate tool.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's like the beginning and after part. The middle part is actually easy because it's just stop barking, right? But
Yeah.
then if you're a socializer, you need to bring that person in, but you have to have a means of correcting her should she decide to become aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to figure out how I go about this. So I'll explain how we approach things and then the tools that we use, and then we'll go from there. Okay.
Okay.
Do we have any questions before I get started?
I have it's a statement, I guess. So, you know, as I mentioned, I've read a lot of dog books, and I've heard all different types of theories about how to handle this. You know, one is that dogs live and die almost literally by their ability to read body language and to pick up these micro cues. And I've had people say, well, you never get aggressive towards your dog. The best thing to do is just to back away and, you know, don't engage your dog, because on some level you're actually rewarding your dog when you reciprocate that behavior, or you're substantiating their need to be aggressive to you. And in their sense, there's not really a before and after. Everything's happening at the same time. So in their sense, and in their mind, there's no difference about them doing it first or you doing it first or whatever. And all you're doing is making that situation worse. But your approach seems to be different. Your approach seems to be, no, you have to find a way to establish dominance, you know? So what do you think?
So that's a really good question. Most literature that's out there is wrong. Okay, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because it's written from a human perspective. Okay, the human perspective is you don't hurt animals, and I agree, you don't hurt animals. Okay, but if a dog is actively attacking me, you best believe I'm gonna beat that dog in submission.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The dog's gonna do me more harm than I would do them more harm. They have teeth. Okay,
Right.
and like right here, you see this?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was a dog bite. Okay, now this particular dog that bit me is a 140-pound Great Dane. Okay,
Ouch.
and I did not actually become aggressive towards him or reciprocate because he was acting out of fear. Okay, so in that context, I would have instilled more fear because he's like, hey, I don't know what to do. I perceive a threat here. So if I become threatening, then yes, that becomes worse, right? But the dog that I mentioned earlier that came to attack me for the sake of attacking me. It's a very different form of aggression. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess it's differentiating and under what's dominant.
Sorry, Edward, you're cutting out here.
Sorry. So
Well,
in some cases, it's going to be, hang on a quick sec. I'm going to stop the video. Hopefully
sure.
you can hear me now.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's going to be a question of dominance or establishing dominance. In some cases, it's going to be an outright, I'm afraid of the situation. I don't know what else to do.
Correct. And our response is contingent on the moment, right?
So in other words, what the trigger is.
Correct. Now,
Okay.
it's not to say that you can't have consequence for a dog acting out in fear, but what I would try to do is avoid conflict. Okay. So the books come from We Don't Hurt Animals, and they make it very kind of concrete. But in my book, I'm like, well, I understand it's a dog and they don't perceive things the way that we do because they're very primal. But if they're coming at me with the intent to hurt me, I have every right to defend myself, right? And if most people only do enough to kind of stop the situation, and then they fly, right, or they retreat. But what the dogs learned is, yeah, you'll fight back to a degree, but then you run away, So the dog still wins, right? In my book, if I have to reciprocate, the dog's going to leave the situation for me because they're going to say, holy crap, I picked the wrong person. Okay.
I mean, that's kind of what, when with our other dogs and with her when she was a puppy, whoever we took to the puppy training, you know, when they were little and they were just acting aggressive, like puppy aggression, it's a different kind of aggression. You had to establish dominance, and it was you take them down and you hold them down by the scruff and you look them in the eye until they look away and start breathing calmly, because they know you're in charge. You're not backing down. And that's kind of what we were doing. It just seems like,
Now she's bigger.
I know. And,
Right.
but I still try to do, like when she bit me, well, first of all, I didn't know it because she bit me and I felt like my whole arm came off. I grabbed her and held her down because I was scared she was going to continue biting. So I held her down until she calmed down.
So the holding down, I don't do.
Okay. Well, I was doing it out of fear at that point. It was,
Hearing what you learned, right?
yeah.
One reason I don't teach it is because almost everybody does it wrong.
Okay.
Okay, they tend to use too much force. And the second reason is with puppies, you know, I use the, so if a puppy's attacking my hands playing,
Yeah.
and I correct them with the Caesar jab, the puppy will walk away from me.
Well, I want to know what the Caesar jab is.
Watch Caesar Milan, old school
Okay.
dog whisperer, seasons 1 through 10, good stuff. Okay, but don't do it with your dog because you will get bit.
Yeah. She's a little old for that, right?
But I make the puppy leave the situation. Okay, when you pin them down, I understand the concept of calming them down and stuff. It's very nuanced. It's hard for the average dog owner to do correctly. In the case of a full-on dog bite, okay, let's say even though you calmed her down after the bite, who do you think won?
Oh, she totally did.
Yeah, right, because she got the bite in.
Yeah.
So if I got bit and it was in an aggressive fashion where the dog was like, screw you, I'd use my feet right to the sternum and the dog goes, what? Right? Holy crap. And then runs off. So even though they did more damage, I made them run away.
I guess I've never wanted to do that because I figured if I kicked, they'd try to bite me again.
Correct. So when we come into conflict, because that's now what I would deem a dominant scuffle. Because he said, don't do that to me, bite. And he said, I'm going to do that, don't bite me. And it becomes an argument, but it's a physical argument. Right?
Yeah.
Somebody has to win. That's just how the way of the world. When countries go to war, they go to war until somebody wins, right? That's a bigger scale of dominance.
Yeah.
So I understand where people come from. And yes, I dissuade them from using any physicality if they can.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that kind of context, she got away with it.
Yeah.
And it reinforces the ego. Okay. And so I'm very much like, if you like read with or talk to a lot of trainers, everybody's going to tell you something different. Almost everybody's going to say avoid the conflict or retreat. You're rewarding the behavior by doing that, because the dog goes, I growl at you, you leave the situation, I win. Right? If you watch Caesar, you'll see him press the dog and you'll see him win those conversations. But it's very nuanced. He's very good with his energy and what he projects, and also doing his hand corrections. But he's also been bit. I've clearly been bit. So that's why my job is to keep you guys safe, right?
Yeah.
And reduce.
My job is to hire you to get bit for me.
And we have a special suit for that.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why, you know, it's tricky. So please don't take what I'm saying to heart and start doing it, because I do not want you to get bit. But that's technically how conversations are settled in the dog world. Okay. And I know now we have things like, you know, abuse, animal abuse and all that stuff, which makes things trickier. But again, you're not looking for a fight. Your dog is just being a jerk. Okay. So then it's like coming across, quote unquote, as a bigger jerk. And the dog goes, all right, well, then I don't want to screw with you because I never win. Right. And it's
Will the dog take that I don't want to screw with you and apply it to everybody? I mean, that's
right. Now we're talking about how we make that happen.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. So let's say I have a household and the mom is super disciplinarian and addresses the dog, right?
Yeah.
But the dad or the kids are soft. When the mom is around, the dog will be very mindful. When you remove the mom, the dog will pull strings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As it can. It's just like with kids. So growing up, if I was with grandma, I knew I could get away with more stuff, right? And if I was with my mom, I had to behave myself. If I was with my mom and my grandma, I learned grandma would override mom and I could get away with more stuff. Okay? Dogs
Okay.
the same way. Because, you know, if it's a dominance thing, and then I know trainers will argue like, it's not real training if it doesn't apply to everybody. I call bullshit because not even they can do the same thing. Okay, so they can't even fix the problem, but they're gonna argue against the fact that the dog only listens because, you know, the dad or the mom really disciplined the dog. I go, yes, that's dominance. That's how it works. You know, so for humans, you guys drive?
Yes.
Do you go on the expressway?
Yes.
You go the speed limit.
What?
You go the speed limit.
No,
No, why not?
because I'm in a hurry.
Because we can get away with going faster.
Right? But when there's a cop around, you change your behavior, right? Because the cop is an authority figure, and in some ways they represent a form of dominance, right? So you alter your behavior because there's an authority figure. So same thing with dogs. So when you're around, when your husband's around, and your daughter's around, and everybody's seen the same way, the dog will be great, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take your dog and you send him off to your groomer, and maybe your groomer, as assumption, doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't reinforce the same stuff. They may have issues there, okay? Because they're not displaying the same level of structure that you are at home.
Okay.
But you know, it's normal. So like a lot of the dogs that come here to our facility can only come here because nowhere else can handle them. But it makes it very easy for the owner because our structure is the same structure that we teach them. So it makes
Okay.
it.
Yeah, it's consistency for sure.
Yeah. So yes, in a perfect world, we'd love to be able to create a dog that anybody can take and it wouldn't be an issue, but that's not how the world works. You know, if kids don't even do it, human kids, right? Kids learn to
Yeah.
be and play boundaries with. Your dog's gonna do the same thing. Okay, but does that all make sense, or do you have any questions about that?
Nope, I'm good. Ed?
So I'm assuming before reaching out, you guys did some research on us and like what our approach and what we're about and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not many people, a lot of people that I've talked to, it's all about training. And I'm like, I can train her. I can certainly train her to sit and stay and lay down and roll over. There's something underlying. I kind of equate it to Dr. Phil. This problem is bigger than me. It requires somebody who specializes in this. And so in looking at a couple different options, you know, I found you just online, Googling, and just said, this sounds like it would be like, this is your experience. This is exactly what you work towards.
Right, what I built my career on.
Yeah.
So the way that we train here is we use an e-collar, okay, which they use for like electronic fences. I think someone mentioned. Right? It's the same technology, except you control it, and it's much more refined.
Okay. I mean, we don't have an electric fence just because our first Australian Shepherd was so smart. She figured out where the weak spot was.
Sure.
And if you run fast enough, it's a quick zap. And then they won't come back because they don't want to get zapped coming back. So like, we were like, that's just, you know.
So I won't get into that, but that's a very common issue.
Yeah.
So electronic e-collar and then the electronic fence are the same technology, except let's say the electronic fence goes to like 5 as the maximum. Yeah. Mine goes to 127.
Holy crap.
So the difference is, imagine 5 and 127 as being the same, but I have 122 more breaks. Okay. So I very nuanced. It's not 122 more levels. It's just more, it's more refined, and I can really tailor it to the dog's personality type. Okay. So Why I like e-collar is because it allows me to work with aggression without conflict.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without you getting bit.
Like right now, I'm working with a client who has a pug whose dog is a resource guarder. So she'll bite you or he'll bite you if you try to take a bone from him.
Mm-hmm.
We did our first session on resource guarding, and she thought that we were going to provoke the aggression and then correct them. So she thought she was going to get bit. And I was like, no, not with e-collar. Like we can be in a totally different room and tell the dog to let it go and make him let it go using the remote. Okay, so we can avoid any and all conflict if possible. Okay.
Okay.
So nothing's related to anybody personally. It's more so related to the dog's behavior.
Okay. So they
Right,
don't
so-
know that you're doing it.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Now, some dogs can learn to recognize either the collar or the remote, but they still don't understand that it's related to you. Okay.
Well, see, I worry about that because she's so flippin' smart. I don't want her to associate anything negative. I don't want to be that person, you know?
Well, don't think of it as that. Like, think of it as you're trying to establish respect.
Yeah.
And you're trying to establish respect without negative energy. Negative energy is like, stop. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dog, right?
I get tired
So
of
if you
that.
see me with a dog, you'll never see me be like that. Okay. My intensity might be up there, but my energy is neutral.
Okay.
Okay. So that's what creates issues is that people bring in energy. You know, because they're frustrated, they dealt with the stuff for a year. It's like the sixth time they'll hit someone, you know, I get it. So, and at the end of the day, I know everybody wants their dog to love them and stuff, but your dog's bullying you.
Yeah.
Right? So the first thing I always care about is establishing respect. Over time, you know, she might just be a dog that coexists. You know, like she'll warm up to you and stuff, but I care about not being bit. And you can't have both. You can't have a dog that's always happy with you know, just enough discipline to like keep them in check, or a dog that's like, how do you say, happy and also being respectful at the same time, right? It's yes, it can happen, but people worry too much about the relationship. And I'm like, get the respect down first, the relationship will come later.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't need her to sit in my lap and lick my face. I'm okay with that.
Right. You know, it's like me with my mom. Like I love my mom, and we're not buddies. She's my mom.
Yeah.
There's like that respect factor there, but we do stuff like, you know, go out to the movies together and have a nice dinner together and, you know, all that stuff. But she's my mom at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. So, the way I would approach this, is I know you said with one trainer, they worked on the leash walking stuff, right?
Yeah.
I understand why they did that because we do a very similar thing.
Okay.
But in our case, we have discipline. Okay. So my style of leash walking is if I take one step, the dog takes one step. I take 5 steps, the dog takes 5 steps. When I stop, the dog automatically sits. No tension. I don't care what the environment is. I don't care if her worst enemy is across the yard. I don't care if it's 10 of her worst enemies. She's going to be very mindful. She's not going to do a thing other than what I command her to do. Okay. I don't care about the obedience. I care about the discipline that's behind it that we do with the e-collar. Okay. Because essentially we're biting her in a non-confrontational setting to let her know that, hey, consequence does exist. Okay. And it can change the way a dog thinks. Because so far she hasn't had formal discipline that she respects. Okay. You may have tried to discipline her, but it's not been to the degree where she's like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm going to change behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would do the same thing. I would start with the leash walking. Again, the biggest issue is just trying to collar her up. Okay. And I'll try to go over that before we end the session. After we do, it's usually 2 classes. Also with the leash reactivity stuff, I know you said she's for the most part good unless she sees her enemy or like that husky or whatever. That will fix that issue. Okay. If it doesn't fix the issue, then we have to correct her for the behavior itself. So that means if she sees her worst enemy and she starts barking, and we've already done the prerequisite of you walk with me and don't do that stuff, then we essentially quote unquote bite her using the training tool and say that behavior is not allowed. Now there's a consequence. to deter her from repeating it. Okay. The next thing we move into, either by class 3, if not class 3, by class 4, is the front door exercise. Okay. It's a simple exercise to do, and it's really more so about communication. Stopping the behavior is not the problem, okay, or won't be the problem. That's going to be easy as long as we can get that training tool on her. The hard part would be stopping the behavior and your guest coming in the home.
Yeah.
Okay, and her being free. Okay, so that we see what happens. How does she start to think and perceive things?
Oh,
okay?
hi, Bella.
Hi,
Hi, Bella. I don't know why you just popped up.
Work with the socialization aspect of it. I would highly suggest that we muzzle train and you start that process today. Okay. I don't care if you're working with me or another trainer. If you're going to end up working on that part of training, the muzzle will help remove the stress of what happens if she tries to bite someone. Yeah. Both on your behalf and on your guest's behalf. Okay. So let's say we do everything. We back her up. She calms down. She's not being territorial. But the person moves in a certain way. She's like, I don't like the way you move. Then she charges. Well, she technically has to try the behavior, and the correction has to happen as the behavior is happening to teach her that that's not allowed. Okay. So this way, even if things went south and she did get up to the person and try to bite them, she's not going to be able to. We're going to reduce that risk greatly. But 2, it allows us to replicate or imitate life as realistic as possible without the risk of somebody getting injured, and being able to correct her and keeping her within the context. Most people, when they see something like that happen, they take the dog, they remove the dog. Yeah. Or they remove the person, right? So the dog doesn't learn to coexist because you remove the situation.
Well, and that's what we've been doing. It's just removing. It's
right, which is wise with what you're, with what
why I'm calling you, because I don't want that to be her life.
Right. So, that's how we progress with that. And then the rest of it is kind of really playing it by ear. It really seems like yours is more, again, behavior based. We do need a little bit of obedience simply for the aspect of teaching her how e-collar works, what it is, how it turns on, how it turns off, but also to get you used to the application of it. Okay. It's not just come in, let her be a bad dog, zap, zap, zap. There's like more to it. Yeah. Because you have an end goal of you would like her to be sociable. Yeah. Right? If it was just, we don't care about her being sociable, we just want her to stop the crap, then you can just punish. You know, because you're not worried about her making friends with anybody. Okay. Yeah. The socialization aspect is what makes it a bit more complicated or nuanced. So now going to the collar, the potential issue that we may have here is because dogs will create the association of collar means discipline. Yeah. Is if she already has an issue with you going into her space, if she starts to relate that you coming into her space with this collar means discipline, we might see like a spike. Yeah. Okay. We have to get over that, either through correction with another method, which I would go over with you, or counter conditioning, which is using food and stuff, which would mean we remove her diet. She eats no treats, she gets no snacks, she gets no food, unless it's us calling her up or muzzle training her. So we increase the value of her daily food by restricting it, and it's you don't eat a thing unless you allow us to do this and put this on you with no conflict. Okay. That part's going to be the variable because I don't know how long it's going to take her to get over that. And it tends to be hard emotionally because their dog's not eating sometimes for days, because we're trying to create that hunger. We're trying to create I need to keep myself in check if I'm going to eat, and allow you to do this stuff and put this on me so that I can eat my food. And then people feel bad because they're like, well, now my dog's not eating. I'm like, yeah, but it's there for purpose. Well, I have a quick question about that. So is the collar, so we have, when we walk her, we have a prong collar or whatever seems to work fine. I mean, like I said, just one quick jerk, she pays attention. She does, one of the other things we think is like, can dogs be autistic? Because she's so
Like when she's barking, she ignores everything that's around her. Like she doesn't hear us.
Yeah.
She doesn't, like she is so focused on whatever it is that's causing her
Right, because
stress.
dogs don't tell each other to calm down with words. They bite each other.
Yeah.
So
And
like if
so,
you're walking out a window and the other dog doesn't like it, they'll come and bite them.
so going back to the collar thing, like well, she knows the prong collar as much as she doesn't like it. And she knows because she's a good walker, she doesn't get disciplined nearly as much anymore because she walks right next to us. When I stop, she stops, that kind of walking. She sees the collar and she actually gets excited.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, because she's obviously grown to associate the prong collar with we're going to walk around the neighborhood, and she loves it. So for her, it's a positive thing to see the prong collar come out.
Yeah.
Now I could probably get this collar, the electronic collar on her if I sat down and gave her some treats and said, put the collar on. Is it something that you keep on all the time then, so she doesn't associate that particular collar with punishment or whatever?
We would have it if we need it. Ideally before we even need it. So like if we know a guest is coming at 6 o'clock, at 5:30, she'd already be collared up.
Okay. But I mean, it's not something you wear all the time then.
Correct. Because I'm inside the home, ideally, unless there's a stimulus like a guest coming over, we shouldn't need it. Okay. But I don't know how to perceive when we go to leash her up and she becomes aggressive part. Okay. That's what makes things tricky for me.
Yeah.
I don't want you to get bit. Okay. Which is why I'd rather approach it very black and white and remove all rewards and food and stuff. So it makes it mean so much more that when we go to do these exercises, you're going to make a much faster process. And ideally, we avoid any potential problem because I don't know if it's going to happen, right?
Okay.
But I'd rather assume it and have you already making progress than to have you try it without it. And then 3 weeks down the line, she gets collar smart. And then we have to delay training for 4 weeks so that you can start and start over.
Train that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, so in terms of length of time and stuff, you have a couple of options here. Again, you want to start that conditioning process right off the bat. Okay. If everything is going fine with the e-collar and collaring her up, right? Everything else should not be a problem. It should be very simple. Okay. As I would say, so I have 6, 9, and 12-week programs in terms of private training. You're probably like in the 6, maybe 9-week realm. Okay. The way I would break this up is we would send you the information for the muzzle training and the e-collar training, and you just start that on your own time. Okay.
Okay.
And class 1, pending we can call her up, no problem, is we do the leash walking. Okay. Now, I know you said she's a good walker, but most people's interpretation of what's good in my interpretation is very different.
I'm sure it's different. Yeah.
Plus, we need it so that we can layer in the remote to teach her how it turns on, how it turns off. Okay. We have to have that. That's typically 2 classes. If the reactivity with dogs and stuff is going well, then we jump straight to the door stuff. Okay. And then everything after that is play it by ear. It also depends on how much control you're wanting, because there's obedience and there's behavior, right? And they're obviously 2 different things. In some cases, so when we tackle behavior, we're wanting to dissuade the dog from repeating the behavior in the future, right? It doesn't always work, that method, okay? So then I have what I call preventative measures, which is we can control the dog using obedience to prevent them from even performing the behavior, right? So you have intervention, which is stopping the behavior as it's happening or preventing it, like when the thought process. Or prevention is, hey, if I know the dog is going to charge my guest, even if I back them away and calm them down, if I tell them to go and lay down in the corner and my guest comes in, they're not going to move.
Okay? Oh, I'd love that too.
You're preventing the problem. It doesn't help the sociability, but at least you don't have to worry about the fact of charging.
Oh, I don't need my dog to be, super cuddly, snuggly with everybody that comes in. I actually, like her barking a little bit. It makes me feel safer.
Yeah, but you want to have control.
Yeah, I just don't want her to hurt anybody. I'm fine if she never socializes with guests in our house. You know, I'm fine with that. I just don't want her to hurt the guests in our house.
Right. So yeah. And then what we've done with our programs is we've added in 2 Zoom sessions. So if you did the 6-week program, you would get up to 6 in person and then 2 over Zoom. So you're getting 8 hours of work for the same price as it was prior for 6 classes. Okay. Now, the difficult part here is because of COVID, we're not doing in-home, but we're doing in-person.
Okay.
All of our clients have been meeting us at Oz Park here in the city because once we get those 2 classes in person, I would send you supplementary like videos to watch. Okay. For instance, with the door exercise, we have a session that we recorded in home with another client prior to COVID. And I send that to people and I say, watch this video. And then we're going to start a Zoom session and I'm going to kind of tie up any loose ends that you may have not picked up. Okay. And then maybe 15 to 20 minutes into that Zoom session, you have someone come over to ring the bell and I coach you through it via the Zoom. Okay. E-collar is what makes this doable. Okay. If someone were to insist to me like, no, I only want to use food, I tell them no, because it's not going to work.
No, she's not even really food driven anyway.
Right.
It's not motivating her. It doesn't really motivate her to do much.
Yeah. And food, like I don't even use food anyways, but just to give you an example, like e-collar is what allows us to be able to work with people over the internet and in person. We haven't had to touch a dog since everything started. I've maybe done 5 minutes in total amongst 20 clients on handling the dog because the owner just couldn't do it. And everything else has been verbal coaching. Okay. So e-collar is going to allow for that. How much does Penny weigh?
60
pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. So the collar I would recommend for her is meant for 70-pound dogs and over. And they just discontinued it, but you can get it online still, like on eBay and stuff. So we'll send you the link. You're going to want to get that collar, okay? Because she's got a thicker coat of fur.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we want to be able to get through that fur, but also because of the intensity, I want to know that if I need the power to shut down the aggression, that's the most powerful collar there is.
Okay.
I wouldn't even gamble it for something lower output. It's just a muscle contraction. It's not electricity. It's not a taser. They use the technology on people. They use it in chiropractor offices and at the physical therapist. It's what they use to.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The same technology.
They'll
Okay?
freak her out.
And then it's really play it by ear. Okay. So I would plan for 2 in person, possibly 3. Then we do the Zoom to handle the door stuff.
Okay.
And if you find like, holy crap, Jesse, that was very easy. Like, what's the next thing? I can give you instructions, and then we would just continue to progress obedience-wise for the control aspect of it while you do the behavior stuff on your own time.
Okay.
They're really simple exercises. I know the books you read and all that crap make it sound complicated. It's actually very simple. It's correct what you don't want, but it has to be to the level that the dog respects it, which is why e-collar is so effective. Because with prong collar, let's say you tried to correct her for like, collaring, leashing her up or something. Now you've made it very personal, right?
Yeah.
And if you can shut her down with that prong collar, you're not going to get anywhere. Okay. E-collar removes that personal aspect of it. And she's like, crap, every time I try to challenge you, this thing goes off. But as long as I'm like submissive, nothing happens.
So I could be like working with her and my husband could have the remote like across the room and she won't. So I just don't want her to associate me or my husband or my daughter. Like if we're the ones doing it, that every time they're with us, she's going to feel.
In my opinion, you do want her to associate it with you.
Okay.
Sense of respect.
I mean, I guess I want her to associate it equally amongst all of us, not it's always just me.
Sure. But that requires everybody to work with her, right?
Yeah.
Now, the great thing about e-collar is it makes transference very easy. Because if your husband taps on 45 and your daughter taps on 45 and you do it 45, it's the same for everybody.
Okay, that makes sense.
A dog collar, physically, if you can administer a very good correction, you know, but maybe as an example, your daughter or your husband don't have that technical skill and they can't do so, the dog will respect the person who can administer it correctly, but not the other people.
Yeah.
Because it's skill based. With e-collars, you press a button. And as long as
Hey, that's a skill. That's a skill.
So I would probably start off with 6 and see what we get.
Okay.
If you know you want more control obedience-wise, you're more than welcome to do 9 and 12, right? But if our primary concern is the behavior stuff, then I think you're fine with 6. Now, if we find that the whole collar thing is more difficult than we anticipated, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then you'd most likely have to do like a board and train, okay?
Okay.
We can work with her here on that trouble spot, you know, because that's our job. I mean, you guys have your life, you know, you got to work on all that stuff. When it comes to behavior, I, as much as possible, want the owners to do it because you're the ones that have to learn the stuff, okay?
Absolutely.
But if we struggle with that collar thing, then that might be somewhere where we have to step in and then get that addressed here, and then give the dog back, okay, this is what she's learned, and this is what you're gonna do, and you do get follow-up lessons with it. We've also begun recording what we do here, and we send it to people, to the owners and stuff, so they understand. Everything's about understanding.
Super helpful, yeah.
Everything's about understanding. It's not, we fix your dog like a car and we give it back to you and then it's brand new.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's a lifestyle. There's things you need to know. There's things you need to learn. And that's why we record everything now. And that's why we put it up on YouTube, because we're very transparent. Like, look, this is how we operate. It works, you know? And if we find that you're struggling with something and you're having issues, and I have a client that has the same problem, I send you the video and say, like, here, this is what it's supposed to look like when it's working like it should. Okay? Questions?
How often do you have the sessions? How far apart are they?
Ideally once a week for an hour.
Okay.
Okay. If you guys have like a rotating schedule or something, you know, we can work with that, but I may not see you, you know, for a couple of weeks if our schedule doesn't line up.
Okay.
Well, good news with COVID is our schedules are kind of flexible. Even though I'm sitting at work, you know,
right.
We're flexible at our house.
In regards to starting time, Maria would know that.
Okay.
And then in regards to when does the e-collar go away? Again, in my book, it doesn't. It's that cop in the collar. You
fine.
know you're going to need it, and then if you don't need it, you remove it.
Does it work? A couple side notes. If let's say we're outside and she has it on because we're anticipating somebody coming over. You know, we're going to have some friends over, and so we have it on her. If she were to get off her leash and to run, I mean, right now, like that whole long leash training, there's no way. She got she's been okay. She's gotten off a few times, but she's like, woohoo, I'm free. I'm running.
Yeah, you get.
So if I don't want to use the word zap. If I push the button, does that get her to stop? Or pay attention to me?
We would have to teach recall.
Okay.
So if you want recall, then that would put you more so in the 9-week realm. Okay. Because that's 2 classes. So the way I approach things is I look at what you're wanting and needing.
Yeah.
So, you know, bare bones minimum is this, but then if it's like, well, we also need this, then I go, okay, well, that's going to be a little bit longer. So if you want the recall in conjunction with the heel, with the behavior stuff, then you're more in the 9-week realm. If you're more so, we just need to fix this behavior problem, then we should be fine with 6.
Okay. I mean, right now I'm a baby steps. Let's just fix this problem, you know.
Sure.
Our first dog, our first Australian Shepherd, I keep reminding my husband, it took her till she was about 6 years old to be a chill dog, you know. She wasn't bad. She was just super high energy, and it took her until she was about 6 to be that dog who would sit with us and relax.
You didn't have me as a trainer.
On another side note, eventually, someday when we get to travel, do you just do boarding?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, we've been with the same kennel for 25 years and they've been wonderful. But at the same time, Penny's a little unique and I want whatever we're working with together to continue. I don't want to lose anything if we decide to go away for a week someday.
Sure. Yeah, we reinforce training at my facility.
Okay, that would be great. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, the tools make our lives easier.
Yeah, I would imagine. Because otherwise you get a lot of crazy dogs.
I know a lot of places will charge extra and stuff like that. We don't. We're like, no, by all means, please, if your dog has a prong collar, bring your prong collar.
Okay.
It gives us more control, and we can then give the dog, how do you say, we can incorporate the dog in more activities because we have the control.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to hop off. I have another call right now.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Go ahead, Edward.
I said, great meeting you.
Oh, yes. Maria will get in contact with you. She'll follow up. She'll give you the information price-wise and the collar that you'll need.
Okay.
We'll provide all that information. If you have any
Okay.
questions or any hiccups, just contact us and then we'll sort it all out.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Sounds
you so
good.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Take care.